if they look like, sound like, smell like, feel like the thing that you want them to be, in this case, a cowboy, you are going to do everything you can to fit them into that mold, even when blatantly they're not that. And we see that in his behavior with her, with Olandria, with Clark, and the vast difference between the two, and his blatant disrespect with jumping over her, making sly comments, etc. Well, welcome to Dating Deja Vu, the podcast where we talk about your patterns, your pitfalls, and personal growth in modern dating. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, marriage and family therapist and dating and relationship expert. If your dating and love life looks a lot of bit of the same, it might be deja vu, but it also might be you. So let's figure it out together. What's up, Deja crew? Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Dating Deja Vu. I'm your host, Christina, and I'm so excited for you to be here. And in today's episode, we are talking about how your fantasy of who you think your type is hijacks your reality in dating. I always say it might be deja vu, but it also might be you. And that is so true when it comes to our girl, Olandria from Love is Blind. You can learn so much from her in this TayloR situation. Now, I love Olandria. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. Her ass is insane. And she's smart. She has a business degree. She is funny. She's beautiful, all the things. And TayloR, to me, is not incredibly attractive. I mean, when you compare him to like someone like Jeremiah. However, he has the quality of the countryman cowboy. And I just relate to that, right? Like, I relate to dating someone regarding this fantasy of who they are, or because they remind me of someone maybe I can't have. And I create this like, oh, well, then this person will be this way because they either look a certain way or they have a certain title. And that is 1000% not true. I live in an area, or I used to live in an area of Arizona that had a lot of minor league baseball players and major league baseball players come out. And I would see this happen to girls all the time. They wanted their like pro baller. And they would create this idea that these men, and some of them, none of them actually married the guy. Actually, one did, and I introduced her to him, and they're still married and they have kids. But he wasn't like a big deal. He was like kind of like came up to the big leagues and then went back down. So anyway, but these girls would like be like, oh, well, he's a baseball player. He's going to take care of me. It's going to be this like whirlwind romance. And what happens? A lot of them had kids with these guys. The guy, some of them were married. I have a lot of people in my life who have dealt with major league athlete or professional athletes, and it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. And so that this seduction trap that we put ourselves in, holding out for a fantasy and ignoring the reality of that. And again, our girl Olandria has embodied this. Olandria from Love Island. Even if you haven't watched the show, you will learn something in today's episode. I'm going to get my cowboy. I'm going to get my countryman. Like, yes, I get that there's a certain type of person, especially when it comes to like country music, right? That's not everyone's cup of tea. And I get that. However, when we decide that one person is that for us because they emulate the things that we want, right? The athlete, the countryman, oh, he's tall with tattoos. I'm trying to think. Oh, I dated a guy who was like super like swaggy white boys. Like that used to be my jam. Like guys who could dance, that had a little bit of flavor in them, but completely fuckboys and players, right? But I created this fantasy of these guys as if the next one was going to be different, you know? So let's talk about romantic idealization, right? So we all do it. We imagine the person who is finally fitting the mold, right? They're dressing in the way we want them to. They have similar interests, right? And again, like that's okay. However, those materialistic things aren't love. Like they're great on the outside, but they're not what matters long term. But we think they're fine as hell. We think that they're emotionally intelligent. And we assume because that's what we want. Like we'll just use Olandria. She wants that Southern boy, that cowboy guy, countryman. And she assumes that that person will also want her, right? And that's something obviously we can't control. But we focus so much on this like label that we've put on this person or the title that or the we'll call it persona or character like character caricature that we put on this person. That's a great way to say it. And it almost becomes like a vision and then this goal and sometimes it even becomes an obsession, right? And the problem with that is it blurs our reality, like we're seeing with our girl Landria. TayloR, she TayloR, number one. I think I mean, yes, he lives on a farm, whatever. He's a cowboy. He was also wearing $560 Louboutin sneakers. So just saying. That was yesterday. I had to look him up. I was like, is he wearing Louboutins? He's not like when I think of a Southern man or like someone from the country, like very yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, like God first, family, God and family first, very respectful. Yes, a bit more traditional in regards to like gender roles, but if it like that's your jam, right? I think of someone hardworking, I think of someone communicative. And that's all fine and well. Like if those values are important to you, great. But that's not what we're seeing with TayloR. He doesn't communicate well. He makes comments that are a little off-putting, like, well, maybe people don't like you. And I know he's like joking, hee, but it's not that like chivalrous gentleman. And I'm making this up about what Olandria wants when she talks about like her countryman cowboy. It's not what we imagine it being or the values that we want from it, but because they play baseball, because they work on a farm, because they work in finance, whatever, because they have a lot of money. It's a huge one for women. We will overlook the fact that they're emotionally unintelligent. They can't connect with us. There is no like romantic or sexual spark. We see it all the time. And eventually, because there's not that connection, it will burn out. And we're the ones who end up getting hurt because we've put so much weight on finding this person and starting this relationship. And we finally get it. And then because it was a facade and a fantasy is very hurtful in the end. And so Olandria in this case really wants TayloR. She locked in with him from the get-go, and she basically was like, I don't want to let this guy go. And they were slow burners, as they say, but the red flags were there was a lack of progression, right? When you compare them to like even your own like dating history, because obviously they're on an island and they're together all the time. However, the lack of progression was obvious. And let's just walk you through what happened. So Olandria and TayloR, right? So after Casa Amor, he decides, oh, spoiler, if you haven't watched, if you're not up to date, do not listen to this, or I'm going to spoil it for you. So in Casa Amor, he meets Clark. And for whatever reason, he has an emotional or a physical connection to her too. He's a very different person than with how he is with Olandria. And that's not her fault, but we see like how this man performs, like how he's moving with this new girl versus our girl. So let's kind of talk about like, let's walk you through what happened. So again, Olandria and TayloR are together, but he's making comments about like he's not really into her. They use the like term slow, like, they're slow burn. He even the way he kisses her feels like very middle school to me, like these like short, not very intimate kisses. And I know that she really likes him, and I'm not discrediting that. However, I feel that because of the fantasy of the cowboy, the country guy, she's allowing for things to pass that I don't think she would allow for if it were maybe someone that's not that like fantasy for her, that idealized persona caricature that I talked about, like we saw with Nick. Now, Nick Olandria, I got so giddy when I was watching them. I was like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was in like elementary school myself. And Nick, he moves in his way. We're not even going to get into that. I'll probably have an episode on him and Sierra moving forward. But that even her, he was very like generous with his compliments. He was very generous, like taking off his shirt, giving it to her. And he was doing this in front of his like in front of Taylor and saying, "Look, like I want to treat you well. Like I want you to be my queen." Right? Now again, who knows how real that was. However, there was still something more that Nick was showing her, and she still it could not break her from Taylor, 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 even though when they showed back up. So for those who don't know, Casa Amor, Olandria is cut and Nick is cut. We think they're gone. And this G-Wagon shows up, Olandria's in it, says, get in, Nick gets in. Now, the producers obviously set this up because everyone was like, Nick and Olandria, because he chose her in the blindfold challenge. And he's made these little comments and kind of looked at her from afar. The fucking TikToks on this, you guys, are brilliant. Like the music you guys picked was chef's kiss. Like, are you feeling my Tim's, my jet, my baggy jeans? Like, I was like, oh, I love it so much. Anyway, so they then are they're sat down at this beautiful dinner date. Nick finally opens up and is like, I've been trying to get to know you. I've wanted to explore this relationship. I think you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. He gives her this kiss on the back of both of her hands. It was just that seemed very genuine. Now, of course, everything we talk about on this podcast, we're talking reality. I am just basing this on what I see in my TV. So don't at me if you know them or you have a different opinion. It's my perception, okay, of a television show, not of these people in real life, because I don't know them in real life. But it seems so genuine and like cute and something that as a therapist and a relationship expert, that someone who's really into you would do, rather than these like little pecky, like I think of that emu like commercial where limo emu and he's like pecking at something. I don't remember what it was. That's the kisses that I feel like Taylor's giving her. So then they come back into the villa and they surprise the Islanders. And what does Taylor do? He jumps over her to hug Nick. It was so disrespectful, right? Again, if we're thinking cowboy, it's, that traditional mentality of I'm going to acknowledge my lady. And so we're so like, we as an audience can slowly see this. I'm just call it cowboy mentality, just for whatever. I know that wasn't her exact words, but we're chipping away at the cowboy persona. And we see it, but she can't see it. And she also then has to experience him with Clark. And even then, she still is so blind to her fantasy in her head of how this is going to play out that in front of her face, these two are obviously connected and he is giving no shits that she's there. And still, and I want you guys to think about how strong the hope is, how strong the want to have this particular type can be, that you will try to fit a square peg into a round hole, meaning if they look like, sound like, smell like, feel like the thing that you want them to be, in this case, a cowboy, you are going to do everything you can to fit them into that mold, even when blatantly they're not that. And we see that in his behavior with her, with Olandria, with Clark, and the vast difference between the two, and his blatant disrespect with jumping over her, making sly comments, etc. So, what is the cost for holding on too long? Now, let me be clear. Our girl Olandria is not weak. She is not desperate. she's human, right? She wants that fairy tale ending. She wants her story to be true. She wants that love that she visualized. And so many of us do that, right? But the minute that she started protecting the possibility of Taylor more than protecting her peace is when she lost herself. And we all do that. We protect the possibility of the ball player. We protect the possibility of I'm trying to think what guys do, like the baddie, right? We protect the possibility of the swaggy white boy. That was me. And we don't protect our peace. Because if we were protecting our peace, we'd be more clear headed, right? And for her, she's lost herself in someone that lacks effort, right? He completely lacks effort and intimacy. And we've all done that. We get so attached to the picture in our head that we miss the truth in front of our face. We chase closure when there's only avoidance, right? We chase chemistry when there's absolutely no compatibility. And we chase that potential like it's a real trait, right? Like it's something that can grow. Yes, there's potential in a way that can grow, but in this case, we can't make someone be the way we want them to be. And if you go into a relationship and they look like, sound like, smell like, feel like your idealization, but they're not, you're going to have a hard time because you're going to try to again mold them. I've done that many, many times. I wanted a successful man. I wanted someone who could travel with me. I wanted someone who I wasn't embarrassed by, but I kept dating the opposite. And I kept trying to mold them into this person, and I couldn't, right? And Olandria is like so loyal. You can tell she's such a loyal queen. And that loyalty to the even idealization is there. But really, I feel like she was constantly emotionally bargaining with him and herself because of the fantasy, right? The fantasy loop. So, what are questions that we can do to get out of this fantasy loop? So, if you're listening and thinking, like, shit, this is me, I've done this before, you're welcome for your wake up call. Instead of asking yourself, like, how do I make this work? Or, like she said, like, what is a way that I can show you that I am the person for you? No, 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 no. We're never begging. We're never having to prove our worth to a potential partner. The partner who is your partner will see it without you having to do extra anything. Get that straight. So instead of how do I make this work, start asking, is this working for me at all? Instead of asking, how do I get him to choose me? Ask, why am I not choosing myself in this moment? Because I'm fucking damn sure that if I'm sitting in the villa and he's cuddled up with Clark where she's laying across him and this, that, the other thing, like, no. Deuces, I'm out. You're obviously not that into me if you can get that close to someone else. Now, I understand the premise of the show is like exploring other relationships. But we've seen with people who are very much into their person that they'll explore, but then there's a certain boundary level that is there. And so take that as you want. Another question to ask yourself is, do I love this person or do I love the idea of who I thought they would be, he would be, she would be, based on the title that I gave them or the title that I'm chasing? The guy with money, the baseball player, the cowboy, the Barbie, the baddie. Very, very important because your cowboy, right, might be a vibe. It might be a vibe, but if he's not like riding with you through like conflict, through clarity, through consistency, then he's not your guy. And Olandria, I'm happy that he chose Clark because it frees you. Now, I just looked at the first look for tonight, episode 25. Not too happy with that. So it looks like she's like coming back and they're having the conversation. No, If we're going to talk shit about Huda doing it, Olandria, stop. You did not have to pick him for the heart rate challenge. It's this begging. It's the pictures in the photo booth. Like, no, babe, you're not begging because, again, you want that happy ending, that happily ever after. He's a tumbleweed in your love story. Just need to let him go by. So Olandria, with confidence based in fantasy, walked into the villa with so much hope. Taylor, who was given the position to realize that he is just not that into her, chose someone else. Rather than being a man, let's talk about a cowboy. You tell someone, I'm not that into you, right? Write her a note. Put it in her pancakes. I don't care. You tell them that. You don't have to, you shouldn't be forced to be a man and be assertive, right? And the truth in this is that dating patterns, these fantasies, the people who are the most wrong for us can still feel so right because we're chasing this hope, this dream, this happy ending that we've always imagined, maybe since being little kids. And we just get stuck on our type, our cowboy, our ball player, whomever. And, that's just not healthy for you because as we see, her love story has ended and she just wants love. So here's your challenge. Let's let go of who you imagine them to be. Let's let go of what it means to be the cowboy or let me rephrase that. If you like a type, ask yourself why. Like, what are the qualities of that type? Because I guarantee that you might find those qualities in someone else. I think I've told the story about my client who said that because she's a badass attorney, and she thought that she needed someone who was as successful as her. And she had this guy, like fuck buddy, who was he owned like the handyman, like not general contract, but like a handyman business. But he was so sweet to her because he didn't have to be in boardrooms and meetings all day. Like he had a blue collar job. Like he had the capacity to show up for her and take care of her. And he owned his own business, so he could take her on the nice dinners and do all of those things. She could buy whatever she wanted for herself. So it's not like she needed that. She wanted what she wanted when we actually broke it down. We got her out of this fantasy. We broke down what she wanted. He had all those qualities, and now they're married or they're engaged and they have a home together. And we need to break that down. We need to break down the qualities of what we think. So if we think the person with money, we want someone with good work ethic. We want someone who values providing for their family. We want someone who enjoys travel. We want someone who is responsible with their money. Okay. So let's break that down because the right person for you doesn't just give you butterflies, doesn't just give you prince and princess fantasy life. They give you consistency and they give you safety, but more importantly, they give you truth. And in this case, a damn seat on the fucking horse. So that is it, you guys. If you've been chasing a cowboy, a ball player, a baller who won't ride with you, maybe it's time to saddle up and ride solo until someone meets you at your level. Send this to a friend who keeps texting the wrong person, who keeps making up this fantasy because he or she is a blank. And if you're really feeling brave, send this to your rendition of the cowboy and see what they say. Until next time, guys, I want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to give me a follow or subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. I would love some reviews. And if you're loving our Déjà views, our reality TV bites like this, I'm on right now, Love Island. I believe The Ultimatum is starting. I don't know if I'll watch that. But if there's anything else you want me to watch and kind of dissect, you let me know. But until next time, I want to just remind you that it might be deja vu, like in this case, but it also might be you, like Olandria. Sorry, boo. Bye-bye.